Are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Road Runners Unfiltered. I am your host, Darian Starlin. There is a ton to talk about today, um, because today was National Signing Day for UTSA football. We signed, I believe, 7 guys. I have in detail went down and got notes on all of them. And yeah, I'm definitely going to share those with you guys and talk about some of that stuff. We're also going to talk about some interesting comments from Coach Traylor after he spoke with the media a little bit right after signing day wrapped up, and he had some interesting comments around that quarterback position. So I'm definitely going to jump into that, and then also some sort of housekeeping things. Um, memberships are now available on the channel. I am very, very excited about that. I have the link um, in the video description. I put the link also in the comments. Make sure you guys join. The members situation is going to be a lot of good perks that comes with that: early access to some of the videos and content we're doing. You guys are going to be a part of what topics and things that we talk about and shows and stuff like that. I'm going to give a lot of that control to the members as well. So yeah, be sure to join as a member. That's a huge next step. Plus, I want to add a team to this thing as well, so we can get you guys the best coverage possible. So yeah, be sure to join that also. But without further ado, I want to get into these recruits. That's one of the key things that's buzzing right now. And today, one of the so I guess the way I'll do this today, let me put the banner up here on the screen. We'll talk about signing day here. So I want to go basically line by line, recruit for recruit, and kind of talk about what they're going to bring to the team, and a little bit of background of what they're bringing to the table and the situation that they're coming into. I think that stuff is important when you look at some of these guys. We're getting a lot of guys from these bigger schools, and yeah, I think it is big. We talked a lot about this all throughout the year. Where is UTSA? You guys have heard me say this 1,000 times. Where is UTSA going to find its mark in this whole recruiting cycle and the transfer portal and all of that type of stuff? And I think that we are getting guys from these bigger schools. We have a 5-star recruit who joined the team from LSU, and we're getting other guy 4 stars, and we got a guy from Bama and things like that, which we talked about before. But we are really starting to make our mark. But there's some also interesting things about some of the recruits too that I'm a little concerned about with a couple of the guys. But I'll jump into that right now. So the first recruit I want to talk about, which we've had, we already knew that he was going to be here. He committed a while back, but he signed today, Jalen Garth. So he's coming in from Houston, and he actually played about 7 games for them last season. And before that, he was originally at Texas, where he was a 4-star recruit there. He redshirted a year and I believe he played like 2 games with them. But he's going to have 2 years of eligibility with us, and I expect him to come right in and play. He is a offensive tackle, and he was really good in pass coverage for Houston, right? So I think obviously with UTSA, having some relatively inexperienced quarterbacks, and we'll talk more about the quarterbacks later, but having the guys on the roster right now, and Owen McCown and Eddie Lee Marburger, both of those guys are relatively inexperienced. They have some experience, but not a ton. It's going to be really important for those tackles to come in and be able to protect their blind side, right? So, those tackles are going to be going up against those athletic defensive ends. So it's really good to see us go in and address that position. That's going to be big for us. So he's experienced. He's played on a high level. He's played some Big 12 football. So I'm hoping that he can come in and jump right into that rotation, earn a spot, and be able to contribute to UTSA pretty early. So Jalen Garth, yeah, I think he's going to be big for us. The next guy that I'm going to talk about here is Denver Harris, right? So news broke, I don't know if this was a day or 2 ago, about this guy. I think this was yesterday, but this is the 5-star guy coming out of LSU, who is a cornerback. That I think before LSU he was at A&M, and he was in the rotation there as well as a freshman. So here's a couple things that stand out to me about this guy. So he actually got time and played and was in the rotation with LSU. He was in the rotation at Texas A&M. What this tells me is he's highly talented. The 5-star recruit thing doesn't there is a measuring stick there too, but that just shows how good he was in high school. But the fact that that guy came into LSU, was right in the rotation, walked in at Texas A&M, walked right into the rotation. I think that says a lot for the type of talent he is on the field. Now, the problem with him and why he's jumping from place to place is the fact that he continues to get himself into trouble off the field. That right there is a huge concern because he obviously has big time talent if he can just walk into these programs as big as these schools are with the amongst the best recruits and play. But can he stay on the field? And if you guys remember a couple years ago, UTSA offered him, um, which is I'm sure a reason why he started to look back at UTSA, and I'm sure he's made the same coaches for the most part are still around. At least Coach Traylor is still around. So yeah, I think he's going to be a big pickup. Now the off the ill issues weren't horrible, but at the same time, anytime you have something like that, people are going to raise an eyebrow. So he had two particular issues that resulted in suspensions. The one issue he had was the what did he do? He had a curfew violation. So I'm assuming this was probably game night or this was maybe during camp. I think it was during the season, so it's probably game night or something like that. And we guys have curfews. You have to be in the house at a particular point in time, and maybe this was the day before the game. Who knows? But he violated curfew, and he was suspended for that. And then I believe one of his other suspensions was because of a locker room fight after the game. Those aren't the worst thing. They're locker room fights and situations that happen all the time. If it's football, it's a lot of men with high testosterone. They're going to get into it and bump heads sometimes. But I'm assuming if he got suspended, it was pretty bad. So, yeah, those things are a little bit concerning. But overall, what I'm happy about is I'm hoping he's learned his lessons already. That would be great if he's already learned those lessons. And then he's coming in highly talented and he comes in and dominates for us. He still has a couple of years of eligibility, and considering the fact that this is his second time transferring, I don't think that I think he's gonna be with us until he graduates. So I'm excited to see what he's going to be able to bring to the table 1000%. Let's see. The next person, you know what? Before I go to the next person, I'll get down into some of these comments. We got Marcus Lambert says, is 24/7 or On3 updated with the commits? That's a great question. I have no idea, to be honest. I don't know. I don't know. Braden Glenn says, thoughts on, yep, I just gave my thoughts on Denver Harris. Hello, ATX. Good to see you always. Kermit says, Traylor mentioned that Denver Harris and Joe Price have a long relationship, which is why they feel so comfortable bringing him in. That's great context. That's great news to hear. And yeah, listen, the dude is obviously talented. When you look at someone who can just walk into these two schools, just think about it. He went to A&M. He walked in as a freshman and played, and then he walked right into LSU and stepped on the field too. That shows me that whatever he was doing in camp amongst those other elite guys, he was one of the better ones there, right? And if he's one of the better ones on those big schools in the SEC, just imagine what he's going to be able to do here at UTSA, which is huge. Hello, Miss Carol. Always good to see you. Kermit also says Traylor also said Denver has been on campus for 6 weeks and he has been good so far. That's excellent to hear. Flip says, you think Harris can be you think Harris can be counted on to play single coverage Harris Island? I hope so. Listen, the hype around him would suggest that, right? So we'll see. I very much hope so. I think I'm just hoping that he comes in, he finds a home inside the defense and plays well. We need it. Think about it. We lost Cam Alexander, right? Cam Alexander was an excellent corner for us, and he moved on to Oregon. We need another guy that's going to come in with some of that type of talent. That corner position is wide open. We also lost, was it Dwayne Griffith on the other side, right? So We are down at corner, and I'm sure that these guys are chopping at the bit to go in and compete for a job. Let's see. Jason says Garth struggled to grasp the scheme and never really could establish himself as a starter. Unfortunately, you know what? I read some of that same stuff too about Garth. Listen, sometimes all you need is a new look. You need a new situation. You need a new team to go play for, and a new scheme. And it's unfortunate that it happened at that happened at U of H, but he's a road runner now, baby. So we'll see what he does here. That's what I'm ready for. I won't spend too much time on Ian Jackson. He was the linebacker that came out of the Alabama program. We talked. I think I did a whole show with him, talking about his situation and talking about that. UTSA is getting guys from Alabama, which is huge. But so I won't spend a ton of time talking about him. We need depth at that linebacker position, obviously, with some of the guys that we lost there as well. So yeah, I expect him to come in and contribute immediately. Like I said before, having a guy come in that has already been, in a Alabama program under Saban for a couple of years is huge. So him coming into the UTSA team and coming into that linebacker room is only going to propel us forward. Yeah. So the next recruit is pretty interesting. The next one is pretty interesting here. Jermarius Lewis. So he is a safety. He put up some solid numbers last year against New Mexico or for New Mexico, the New Mexico Lobos. Obviously, this is a huge position for us to address for the reason of we lost Rashad Wisdom, who has been a staple safety for us for years. He's been very versatile, really good at supporting the run. He's also been very good at creating takeaways, and I think this Jamarius Lewis guy is going to be able to come in and hopefully put in a shift and start to pick up some of that stuff. He's an experienced safety. He's played 2 years for New Mexico. He started last season. He played a lot his freshman season as well. So I expect for him, he had 3 interceptions last year, but the entire team, the total team had 4. So he had 3 of the 4 interceptions for New Mexico last season. Here's the one thing that I'm a little bit concerned about. Anytime you go and whenever you go get players and things like that, you go get a player from a bad defense. Now, I understand that he may have been a standout of that bad defense, but it's still a bad defense. It means you got players in that defense that are contributing to the defense being bad. That defense, New Mexico Lobos, gave up 35 points per game last year. They were amongst the bottom in rushing defense in their conference, amongst the bottom of passing defense in their conference. They're in the Mountain West Conference, which is not a prominent conference in college football. That means that he was a part of one of the worst defenses in college football, in Division I college football, right? So I do think him being a sophomore and him having all that experience, he can step into a defense that's a lot more organized and has better talent around him, and hopefully that propels him forward. But it's always just a little concerning whenever you go and get guys from a bad defense. But I trust our coaching staff. I trust our recruiters. They've been really good over the last few years, so I think he'll be fine. But that's just one thing I wanted to flag when I looked at that, and I said, it's always worrisome when you bring in players that was on a awful unit. So anyway, that's a bit about Jamarius Lewis. Kamar Missouri. So this is a kid. He's an offensive lineman coming out of Rutgers. He redshirted when he came in. He didn't play really at all in 2021. I think he appeared in 1 game, and he appeared in 8 games 2022. Last year, he was able to start the last 4 games of the season. And here's what I'll say about that. I actually like that because it tells me that you still have a developing player who's going to be hungry. That's what it tells me, right? He's not coming from a high position to where, and it's the same thing for the other kid too, Garth. These guys are not coming in expecting anything, right? They're going to come in hungry and wanting to compete and wanting to continue to develop. I think the good thing for this Kamar Missouri kid is he's coming in with momentum and confidence because he started those last 4 games and played well from what I've been seeing on my research. So I think he's going to come in and try to push that offensive line room and try to carve out a spot for himself. But I just think that's good. That to me shows a developing player who maybe he didn't play a lot early, but he earned his way on the field and he did good when he got there. So hopefully we can continue to boost his development and he can come in and fit in wherever he does. I think that'll be really good. So it's just good potential, right? It's good potential. You want guys that are still developing. You don't want to go get guys that's peaked out already. You want guys that are still developing as they go, and even at the highest level. Even that doesn't mean like it doesn't mean you're a bad player if you're still developing. What you want is high quality talent that would still untapped potential. You know what I mean? So you get a really good player, but they still have 2, 3, 4 levels to go. I think that's huge, and hopefully we get that in this guy. Zach Morris is the next one. He's another guy from New Mexico, and this is like I said, you kind of got to be careful about this stuff. He's another guy from New Mexico, and he's a corner from New Mexico. And like I said, he had an okay season. Didn't have any interceptions. He had 8 PBUs. He had quite a few tackles, which is commendable. But one thing, tackles at corners is it's hard to kind of look at those because I mean, me knowing as a corner, if you have a high tackles count, that means you probably tackled a lot of receivers that came your way or that caught balls. But like I said, that one also makes me a little nervous because, like I said, we're getting two players from a bad defense, um, two starters from a bad defense. So hopefully those guys can come in and play better with other talents around them. And the last one is Brevin Randall. I think we knew he was gonna sign with us a while back. He's coming in from Louisiana Tech at linebacker. If you remember the guy, if you he was the guy that made the headlines when he stomped a UTEP lineman's head in a game. He got suspended indefinitely. Came out with this long apology and that sort of thing. We were all talking about how dirty players from Louisiana Tech are. He was a prominent player for them, and he had a lot of tackles for them in 2023, and he probably needs a fresh start. Probably wants to, that probably left a bad taste in some of those folks' mouths. Getting suspended and things like that is just never a good thing. So, you know what? He's going to have an opportunity to come in and play. I can tell you that much. We need depth at that linebacker position. That linebacker position is hot. We already got good guys there, and we're bringing in more good guys. So, those are all the recruits that we signed. I believe that's all 7. And yeah, I am very interested to see how this stuff played out. But overall, I think that we did a good job this year from a recruiting standpoint. There's a couple of positions that we hadn't addressed, like the quarterback position. Is one of the things I wanted to talk about with Coach Traylor and some of the comments that he made about the quarterback position. Overall, I think he also talked. He also said that they're looking to address the quarterback position, and they were looking at 3 transfers already, and there's some guys on their list that they want. But we hadn't got those guys in yet, and I think he asked him to watch Owen McCown and Eddie Lee and stuff like that, and make a decision at some point. But yeah, I think that quarterback room, we really, really need to add some depth in that quarterback room. We really, really do. And I think that quarterback room can really benefit from some experience. And it's just experience that we don't have at the moment. I'll be curious to hear from you guys though. With all the signings today, I'd ask you guys to fill up that comment section. With all the signings today, what position and which signing are you guys most looking forward to see? I know I've already got a lot of comments about Denver Harris, but did anybody else stick out to you guys today that you're excited that you think is going to have some potential to play pretty early? I think a lot of these guys are going to have an opportunity. I think obviously the Jamarius Lewis is probably going to be a guy that is probably going to be able to come in and play pretty early, if I had to guess. But I'm curious to hear from you guys on on that. I'll get on to a couple of more questions here. Kermit says Trailer said that Lisa Campos approved 2 designated recruitment staff members too. So we finally have a recruiting staff somewhat. Yeah, I think that's important, man. I think that's one of the things that Javi talked about, I believe, in our last episode. He talked a bit about uh, um, you know, a lot of teams having recruiting staffs and we don't, and we're kind of doing it the old school way. I think that stuff is huge. And if you look deeper into some of those comments that Trailer made, the recruiting staff came from a donation from Harvey. I can't pronounce his last name, but I think that's big time. It just kind of shows how, well, for one, it shows how UTSA football is in need of donations. I also think it does highlight that, and I don't know if we talked about this with April, but it's just me talking with some of the folks on the program. There's just a lot of folks that believe that we spend the money that we do have, we commit it to all the sports instead of more focused on football. And I think we just need to do that. We need to do that at some point. But I don't know. It's weird. Every time I see Lisa Campos' name pop up, I get I get worried because you don't know if it's going to be good or bad. But there's just a lot of stuff that I think that can improve there. But I'm glad to see that we got whatever, even if our recruitment staff is small, at least we have one at this point, right? I know one of them is going to be appointed as a recruiting coordinator, which is going to be nice. And then I'm sure the other person is probably going to be hitting the road year round. So we'll see. Let's see. Another comment here from Jason. Jason says, absolutely on your comment on new scenario. He was my biggest hope when we got him from Texas. Hope he pans out. Lots of potential. Love your show. Appreciate the kind words, Jason. Let's see. Next question or next comment from 512 Scott B says, I think it's going to be tough to get experience because of the fact we got McCown and ELM. Like Trailer said, he asked them to watch them. Most experienced guys don't want to come in and compete. That's a really, really, really good point, Scott. Really good point. I think that quarterback. You know what? That is actually stomping me if I'm being completely honest. The guys who are entering the transfer portal, yeah, they're going to want to go into a program and they're going to want to play. That would mean that we would have to get a guy that's already so good that he knows he's just going to come in and start over both of these guys. That to me is, I don't know. That to me is interesting. You know what would be nice, I think, is a quarterback that we may have had on our radar or something like that ended up going to another place that's looking for a new home. Maybe he hadn't played a lot, but maybe he has some experience. I don't know if that helps, but I think you make a good point. What quarterbacks are going to come in? What quarterbacks with experience and have already a history of starting is going to want to come in and compete with those two? I don't know. That's a really good point. I'm low key stumped on that. Like, that's right. And it is not the way it used to be back in the day. Guys are cherry picking where they go because of the transfer portal. And it's so expensive to get a quarterback too. I was talking to some folks about the numbers that some of these quarterbacks was kind of demanding on the NIL front. And yeah, you got to have a couple $100,000 to get quarterbacks nowadays, good ones at that. So yeah, it might be slim pickings. We might just be stuck on McCown and ELM, and I don't think we will be in bad hands with that. But that might just be the situation that we're looking at. To be honest, I think, and what that tells you is with schools like UTSA, we're just going to have to develop really, really well. We're just going to have to develop really, really well at that quarterback position until we start being able to have the funds and the money to go out and get some of these big guys out there. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. What would really suck if McCown plays great next season and breaks records, and then he leaves and go, one of the big schools take him. That would really suck because we don't have the money to bring in big time guys, right? Yeah, that's an interesting one. All right, next we're gonna roll to the next question. And by the way, guys, I do have a goal. I'm going to hope that I get my first channel member, by the end of this episode. I'm definitely gonna try. So if you have not seen, you can join the channel and as a member. I have the link in the comments and in the description. The next question is Oscar. No, it's from Braden Glenn. He says Oscar Cardenas returning for the final season in 2024. Heard he is slimming down about 20 pounds to become faster and more attractive to NFL. Thoughts on this? Listen, I think Big Oscar is gonna have to trim down a little bit more than 20 pounds. And I'm not like fact shaming or anything, but how much does he weigh? He looks almost 300. I'm sure they. Let's go look at his profile here. Oscar is 285. Okay. All right. 20 pounds. Yeah, that's about right. Maybe a little bit more. That would be huge. Oh, new member. Shout out to Harry Austin. This is the first. He is going to be, Harry Austin is going to be a special person for me in the channel because that's our first member, guys. Awesome. But yeah, back to Big Oscar. Listen, yeah, I agree with. First off, I'm glad he's coming back. I think I would really like to see us utilize him more and get him the ball a little bit more, because he can be that safety blanket. I think, he has made clutch plays for us all throughout. But I think him coming back and being sort of that security blanket for one of our young quarterbacks, that's going to be huge. That's going to be huge. So I'm glad he's coming back. I'm glad he's thinking about the NFL. The dude has hands. The dude can block. He's a really good tight end. And I'm hoping that he does whatever he needs to do to sculpt his body this offseason to make himself more of a attractive prospect for NFL teams. So yeah, I am happy he's coming back just for the fact that our tight end problem is solved. We don't have a tight end problem. But yeah, I hope he sculpts his body in a way that puts him in a situation to get drafted. So that'll be huge. Pioneer says, "Sup, y'all? What's going on, Pioneer?" He says, "Sup, y'all? Any word on any facility updates?" No word that I've gotten. I wonder if anybody in the chat has anything for this. But yeah, I haven't heard anything on the facility updates. Like I said, I don't know how much of this I'm supposed to share. I don't think I can, but the update I guess I do have an update, and I may have shared this before, but what I do know is the covered pavilion, because we've waited a year, the price has went up substantially on what it will cost to make that happen. And I think, I'm not saying that it's not going to happen or it's like pushed off even more, but I can tell you there's some folks that's close to the program that are concerned about that. The price went up substantially. I can't share numbers or anything like that, but yeah, that's what I'm hearing. ATX says, "What is your letter grade for this recruiting class?" I'm gonna go a B plus, man. I think that I think JJ's stat to me about quality, right? I think from a quality standpoint, if you average the stars or like the player ratings specifically of the players we have the highest in the conference. Now, when you go look at all these, because we didn't get as many folks and stuff like that, we're going to be like 10th on the list or whatever in the conference. But if you look at the players that we got compared to some of the other players, I think that we are, I think we had a good recruiting situation. But what I will say is the reason I can't give it anything above a B plus is because we can't address the quarterback position. And I know Scott just stomped me just a while ago with his kind of take on the quarterback thing that I didn't really think about who's going to want to come in and compete with those two. Especially with McCown leading us to that bowl victory. I'm sure guys are going to be looking at that and say, they're probably going to want to go with him as the QB. And considering how much eligibility he has, that's probably a problem for us. So, um, I don't know. I'm uncomfortable that we didn't sign a quarterback at all in any of the recruiting. Um, Let me see. Let me just check we didn't sign on a quarterback. That's not good. I think JJ said it before. Every single recruiting class, you got to bring in at least one quarterback, and we don't have one. So B plus is the highest I can go. Man, Scott says exactly, and I don't think that guy is out there. At the end of the day, we'll just have to go with the moderate experience to build that. Yeah, I'm assuming Scott is referring to some of the quarterback notes that I was talking about before. Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think you're spot on that. Scott also says no, Owen ends up being the real deal. Yeah, or no, Hope Owens end up being the real deal. Yeah, I hope he is too. Listen, I don't, and I'll reiterate this because my want for an experienced quarterback doesn't necessarily mean I want somebody to come in and take that job over. So I want to be very clear about that. I just want there to be more competition in that quarterback room because when you think about it, Owen already knows how to beat out ELM for a job, right? I want him to be pushed more though, right? I think he's already edged above Italy Marburg, and some folks will say that's a good thing because it brings clarity to the next season, and he's going to feel like a starting quarterback going into the offseason. But he hears the coach talking about, oh, we're looking to bring in more quarterbacks. We're looking to get transfers and things like that at quarterback. He hears that. So, and I think Coach Traylor knows that as well. And to me, what that tells me is he also, when I say he, I mean Coach Traylor. Coach Traylor also recognizes that quarterback room has to level up because he's saying these things on purpose. Obviously, he's talking to the media because he's being asked, but also I think another side to this is he's putting that quarterback room on notice that, hey, you guys were good in a backup situation with Frank being in that room, but when you take a Frank Harris out of that quarterback room, the level drops. And I think him messaging stuff out there like that and being really open about makes those guys uncomfortable, but I think it's intentional. He wants them to be uncomfortable because you know what? Maybe he can't bring in an experienced guy from one of these places, but what he can do is say that he is to make sure these guys have that same pressure as if one of those experienced quarterbacks was in that quarterback room, if that makes sense. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm hoping that we that Owen McCown is great. He's our quarterback of the future, or ELM. But yeah, I still am in favor of bringing in some more experience, 100%. Lopez says Owen will be that guy. I surely hope so. I surely hope so. I don't care who it is. I just want them to put in a shift and get us some victories. Once again, shout out to Harry Austin for becoming the first YouTube member. Yeah, I'm glad we've crossed that milestone. Now everybody else needs to join. Yeah, that's super huge, guys. Super huge. And really appreciate Harry for becoming a member. Like I said, link is in the description to join as a member. Jason says UTSA is a team to be in the American this year. I'm not a fan of the team, but I love your show. Keep up the great work. Yeah, so my man Jason is actually, I think he came over from the U of H, one of the U of H shows. We talked a lot about U of H and Coach Traylor. But yeah, appreciate you for watching, Jason, 100%. Pioneer says he's coming back. Who are you referring to? If you're talking about Oscar Cardenas, yes, he is. He will definitely be back. Oh yeah, he was saying UTSA is the team to beat. Gotcha. Uh, let's see. Brayton says San Antonio top 24 prospects. Uh, let's see. James Peoples, Ohio State. Miles Davis, Texas A&M. These are all four-star players. Freddie Dubose Jr. Freddie Dubose Jr. Texas. Am I tripping, or did Freddie Dubose Sr. play football? And was like, I feel like he played for Florida or something. Maybe I'm tripping. But anyway, Braden says we need to lock down these top prices. That to me is a big deal. That's a big deal. But I'm gonna tell you the problem with this, Braden. I agree with you 100%. UTSA needs to make sure that we capitalize with the homegrown talent. However, it's going to be hard to do that if we don't have the funds to pay folks and to pay these players. That to me is going to be um, the thing that's going to hurt us, and I think that's going to happen across football, right? I think a lot of kids who stay, a lot of schools who get folks to stay home. It's not going to be the case anymore unless you have really deep pockets. There's a lot of schools like look at LSU. They get all of the top talent in Louisiana. I'm sure a lot of those guys are going to leave now because LSU can't pay everybody. LSU's poaching people from all over the country as well. You can't pay everybody. So I think with the way NIL has impacted recruiting and with the way the transfer portal operates, we're going to see more and more of stuff like this, unfortunately. And hopefully UTSA can get to a point to where we can have enough money to do some of these things and have enough money to attract some of these players. But I mean, this dude, James Peoples, going to Ohio State, you know how deep those pockets are. Miles Davis, do we even need to talk about how much money Texas A&M has? And then Freddie Dubose, same thing with UT. We're not going to be able to compete with these guys. These guys are going to walk into these programs and make a lot of money immediately. So that, unfortunately, that's always something that is, going to be a thing to hunt us unless there's some significant rule changes or we start getting a ton, and I mean a ton, of help with these NIL collectives. Okay, let's see. ATX says, heard we finally got a special teams coordinator and some new coaches that were promoted and hired. What are your thoughts on that? Listen, special teams coordinator, huge. I think special teams to me plays, especially in college, special teams can win and lose you games more than people realize. Bad kicks, especially when you think about, and we've been fortunate, to be fair. Like, we've had good kickers, we've had great punters over the years, so we have actually benefited from special teams. We've had blunders also over the years, but I think for the most part, our special teams has been really, really good. So that to me is big time. And then the new coaches. Listen, I like to hear the stuff about the new coaches being promoted and hired. I can tell you now, Coach Traylor is doing a lot behind the scenes to make sure those guys are taken care of. One of the things that he can't stand the most, from what I'm hearing, from what I've heard, is he likes his staff to be taken care of in terms of what they are paid, and he wants to be able to retain his staff. And I think him growing his staff, him promoting within and really developing the guys that are with him is going to be huge, and it's only going to be good for UTSA. It's only going to be good for UTSA because what happens is when you have a lot of guys, think about, Stein going up to Oregon, and the DC. I'm drawing a blank on his name, going to Bama, and he's now at Ole Miss. That type of stuff right there is going to attract coaches to want to come to UTSA, and it's going to attract coaches to want to play to come in and work with Coach Traylor. Whenever they see these guys get these other big opportunities on these big stages, it's going to attract young and upcoming coaches who may don't have a big name yet, but that are really, really talented to come in. So I think all of that stuff is huge. Oh, I see our first member question come in, and that goes to the top off the muscle. Harry says, for me, it's not about UTSA competing with P5 schools, but they need to be one of the top G5 schools. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. 1,000%. I agree with that. I think that is something that is doable for us. I really and truly believe that. I think what Coach Traylor has built, I think he could dominate the G5, man. I really, 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 really believe that, and I think we should. And that to me is big. That to me is big. I hope we are able to do that. Oh, we have another new member, Angela Fernandez. Thank you so much for becoming a member to the channel. That is really big. I can't wait for you guys to see what we have in store for that. So really appreciate you being a new member and welcome. Let's go back to this question. Let's see. 512 Scott says Freddie Dubose had an official visit to UTSA, but ended up picking Texas. For sure, starts with NIL to land on these big 4 or 5 guys from SA. Yeah, that's going to be the thing, man. That's the thing that's going to suck. If UT we're not going to be able to compete with a UT, an A&M, or any of these schools, even for the homegrown guys. And I'm sure him taking that official visit, that just tells you that there's part of him that wanted to come to UTSA, because I don't think he'd waste an official visit on that. But here's what I will say. He's going up to UT. And I'm not saying I want this to happen. But if it doesn't work out at UT, guess where he's coming? That 4-star guy will be right in San Antonio playing for UTSA. So, it is, I tell people this all the time. It is very difficult to go into a program and have just success. You guys, I don't think people realize how difficult it is to go into these programs and get on the field, let alone start. Let's not even talk about start, right? I'm talking about getting game time, getting in a rotation, going through camp, not getting cut, all of that. It is extremely difficult. The dedication that you have to have, oh wow, they're doing that stuff now with these things. I don't know if you guys were able to see that question mark comes up, but the dedication anyway, that people have to be able to get on the field is huge. So I'm not saying I want Freddie Dubose to go to Texas and have a bad career or something like that, but I think the key thing with guys like this to keep an eye on, or just keeping your memory bank, is if he doesn't work out in Texas, you know exactly where he's coming afterwards. I'm really happy about 2 members. I've got my goal and surpassed it. Flip says McCown was recruited by UTSA, went to Colorado, played a few games in the Pac-10. What you described, thumbs up. I'm also in on improving recruiting the hometown talent. Yeah, and that's exactly what I was just talking about. Like, these guys that we recruit that are 4 and 5 stars, I even think, listen, it's a great strategy if you think about it. Bring these 4 and 5-star, if you can, bring them into a visit, send them offers, recruit those guys. Because guess what? If they don't do well at those places, they're going to be looking for schools to go to, and UTSA will be there, arms open, and we're going to welcome those guys into the fold, 100%. That to me is what's really important. And listen, I'm sure whenever this recruiting coordinator comes in, they're going to bake this stuff into what they do. It's like, hey, we need to bring in all these 4 and 5-star guys, because we need to play sort of this is our lane of NIL. This is how we get 4 and 5-star players, just like this. And if we're very good at that, and we are bringing in consistently 4 and 5-star players who may went to a program and didn't succeed, but they come here and play well, and they come here into our program, that right there is how UTSA's recruiting can really change the game. I don't know if everybody else is getting 4 and 5-star recruits the way we are. I'm sure. So, I'm talking about within the AAC. I'm sure there are some who are, but we're a Texas football team with a crazy fan base. We don't have a ton of money yet. We're still relatively young, but we're getting there. And I think people look at UTSA and they see the potential. And I am hoping that we really benefit from a lot of this stuff. Scott says the bounce back from Power 5 is where we really need to capitalize, just like we did with Denver Harris. Exactly what I just talked about. We're all on the same page, 1,000%. Member Harry, he says, for me, wait, no, I already did this one because I prioritized his question and comment because it's a member question. But ATX says Traylor said it himself. He is establishing a relationship to be the rebound guy. If these players don't get starting time with these P5 programs, if that's UTSA's role, then we'll be fine. Absolutely, we'll be fine. In fact, like we'll be better than fine if it's like this. Because guess what? We're getting all these guys on a discount. That's what it's gonna be. We literally don't have the money to compete with these schools. But like all of these guys who they're paying to go to these schools, they're paying all these guys to go to these schools, and most of them are going to transfer out within the first year or two because they're not going to be happy about sitting down for however long. They're going to see schools like a UTSA that has an opening and they're looking for a big time guy to come in and fill a slot. Boom, they're going to come. They're going to fall right into our laps. 100%. It's 100% going to happen. 100% going to happen. It's going to happen a lot. ATX also says UTSA is the rebound guy when a player's relationship with the P5 team fails. Yep. I'm here for it. I am here for 1000%. Okay, it looks like I have caught up with all the comments. But yeah, guys, I think just I guess to kind of sum some of this stuff up, if you got anything else, I would say hit those comments. If there's any other topics you're interested in. But I did want to just kind of sum up recruiting and everything about the recruiting. I just think we've done a really, really good job as a team of carving out a lane and being able to, dominate, I think, a particular space. And I feel good about saying that. I think if you just look at this for a second. I'm just going to go down, not from just the guys that we got from today, but guys that we've signed overall. And when you go down a list of us being the rebound guy, this is how good our rebounding is. We got a guy coming in from TCU that's a part of the 2024 signing class. This is the 2024 signing class. Receiver DJ Allen's from TCU. Jalen Garth, who we talked about earlier, from Houston. Denver Harris from LSU. And so think about it. That Jalen Garth, Texas and Houston, LSU, Devin Harris, A&M and LSU, Ian Jackson, Alabama. We got the two guys coming in from New Mexico. They're not big schools, but they were standouts for the New Mexico Lobos, right? We got a guy from Rutgers. We got another. We got three folks from New Mexico. We got the O-line. What relationship do we have with New Mexico to where we're getting all their players? Curious. They weren't a good team, so we got three guys in our signing class from New Mexico. That's interesting. We clearly have a relationship there. But anyway, we got Brevin Randall from Louisiana Tech. We got Damian Wimberly from SMU, and then we got JJ Sparkman from Texas Tech. So if you count from Power 5 schools, we got, what is it? TCU, it's Big 12. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we got 4 guys from P5. No, 5 guys from P5 schools. That's big time to me. It's big time. They're 4 and 5 star players too. That's huge. That to me is significant. And I think from a recruiting standpoint, this is how UTSA is going to. Before, like we've been talking about this all year, there's just been a huge concern about what we're going to be able to bring in. But I think we just have to shift the way we look at it, and we have to look at it and say, hey, the guys that we go out and sign from a high school or something like that, it's going to be really hard for us to get 4 stars and 5 stars even out of a high school. We probably won't get that opportunity until we get deeper pockets, right? But the key thing is how good are we going to get rebound players? How good are we going to be able to poach really good talent from these bigger schools? That is going to be the way that UTSA is going to be measured, I think, when it comes from a recruiting standpoint. So I'm really excited about what we have going on. I think what we did was really good. Still got to address that quarterback position. Coach Traylor said corner, quarterback, and I believe offensive line is positions that he's still looking to add help at. Quarterback position, I'm good with Owen McCown, but yeah, I mean, if we can somehow get somebody with some experience, that'll be excellent in my opinion. But I will go ahead and wrap up there. Be sure, as I said before, join as a member. Can't wait to bring you guys some more content. I got a lot of plans what I want to do this year. Like I said, I want to bring an entire team into the fold so we can get you guys the best content possible. And you guys being members will really, really help that. I also want to upgrade some of the equipment and actually get some studio stuff coming on. I have some good. I forgot to say this for those of you guys who are still with me. I have some guests that you guys are really, really gonna like that are gonna be coming on. I am working out the logistics with some of this stuff as well. For one of the guests, I think I'm going to rent a studio to have them on so we can do it in person. I think you guys will really, really enjoy that. So be sure you guys stick around for that stuff as well. But there's just a lot of content. I got a huge plan of what I want to do this year with the channel and with UTSA football, and I need you guys' support for that. But with that being said, I am going to sign off. I will see you guys later this week or maybe next week's. Peace.